Princess Zara stepped onto the human diplomatic vessel with her chin high and her expectations low. The humans had been part of the Galactic Council for barely a decade, and their representatives always seemed so ordinary. No ceremonial armor, no battle scarring visible on their skin, nothing to suggest the warrior culture every spacefaring species developed. She glanced at the guard assigned to her detail and suppressed a sigh. He looked barely out of training, with kind eyes and an easy smile that seemed completely out of place on a military vessel. "Ethan Cole, Your Highness," he said, offering a small bow. "I'll be your security escort during the summit," she nodded curtly, already dismissing him. "A rookie." They'd sent her a rookie. The Vale Empire commanded respect across 70 star systems, and Earth sends her someone who probably hadn't seen real combat. The diplomatic quarters were modest but clean, and Zara settled in with her attendants, trying not to feel insulted. The alarm shattered the calm. 2 hours into the journey, red emergency lights flooded the corridors, and the ship's automated voice announced, "Hull breach in Sector 7. Zara's blood went cold. She knew that sector. It was directly adjacent to her quarters. Ethan appeared in her doorway, his expression unchanged, that same calm demeanor. "Your Highness, please step back from the walls." "What's happening?" she demanded, but she already knew. Every species in the galaxy knew the sound that came next, the scraping of claws on metal, the guttural clicking that made prey animals across 1,000 worlds freeze in terror. Kravax, the apex predators of the Andromeda frontier, creatures that had toppled colonies and massacred entire battalions. They didn't take prisoners. They didn't negotiate. Other guards rushed past her door, weapons raised, fear bright in their eyes despite their training. But Ethan simply positioned himself in the doorway, his hands loose at his sides. He didn't even draw his sidearm. "Shouldn't you have your weapon ready?" Zara's voice came out sharper than intended, panic creeping in. "Not yet," Ethan replied softly. The wall exploded inward. Smoke and debris filled the corridor, and through it came the Kravax. 3 of them, each standing over 7 feet tall with obsidian claws and eyes that reflected the emergency lights like polished mirrors. Their scales rippled with colors that meant hunting mode, and the clicking sounds from their throats rose in pitch. They were communicating, coordinating. Zara had seen archive footage of Kravax attacks. This was how it always started. Right before the slaughter, she pressed herself against the far wall, her attendants crying out in terror beside her. The lead Kravax's head swiveled, those reflective eyes finding Ethan in the doorway. The creature's claws extended further, each one capable of shearing through reinforced plating. Ethan didn't move. He simply looked at the Kravax, his expression still calm, almost sad. And then something impossible happened. The lead Kravax stopped, its head tilted, and the clicking sounds changed pitch, became slower, more uncertain. The creature took a step back, then another. Its companions shifted, their scales flickering from hunting colors to something else, something Zara had never seen documented in any military brief. Confusion. Or was it recognition? The 3 Kravax backed toward the breach they'd created, never taking their eyes off Ethan. The lead one made a sound, low and resonant, almost like a word. Then they were gone, disappearing back through the hole in the hull with a speed that seemed wrong for retreat. Silence fell over the corridor. The other human guards stared at Ethan with expressions Zara couldn't read. Not surprise, exactly. More like confirmation of something they'd already known. "What just happened?" Zara stepped forward, her voice shaking. "Kravax don't retreat. They don't back down. Not ever." Ethan finally moved, his shoulders relaxing slightly. He glanced at her, and for the first time she noticed his forearms, the way his sleeves had ridden up during the standoff. Scars crossed his skin in patterns she recognized from military history texts. Claw marks. Kravax claw marks. "They remember," he said quietly. "Remember what?" He met her eyes, and she saw something ancient there, something that made her take an involuntary step back. The Fringe Wars. 5 years ago, before first contact protocols. Humanity's colony ships pushed into the outer fringe, and the Kravax were already there. They thought we were prey. Zara's mind raced. The Fringe Wars weren't in any official record she'd accessed. What happened? We taught them otherwise. Ethan's voice remained soft, almost gentle, which somehow made the words more terrifying. The Kravax are apex predators on their worlds, Your Highness. Dominant. Unstoppable. But Earth, we evolved differently. We didn't become apex predators by being the strongest or fastest. We became apex predators by being the ones who never stop hunting. One of Zara's attendants whispered a phrase in the old tongue, a prayer against evil spirits. But Zara couldn't look away from Ethan, from this rookie guard who suddenly seemed anything but inexperienced. The Kravax have a word for us now, Ethan continued. In their language, it translates roughly to, the ones who don't stop. We're not the biggest or the most physically powerful species they've encountered, but we're the only ones who hunted them back. The only ones who tracked them to their breeding grounds, who followed them across 3-star systems, who refused to let a single raid go unanswered. How many? Zara asked. How many humans died? Enough. Ethan's jaw tightened. But we made sure they lost more, made sure every Kravax war party that attacked a human colony understood the cost. They're predators, Your Highness. They understand cost-benefit analysis better than most diplomats. The ship shuddered again, a second impact reverberating through the hull. The alarms shifted pitch, and Zara heard the weapons officer's voice over the intercom reporting multiple contacts. This time, the Kravax weren't being subtle. War chiefs, Ethan said, his expression hardening. They lost kin in the first attack. Now they want revenge. But they backed away from you, Zara protested. They recognized you. The scouts recognized me. War chiefs are different. They're older, more traditional. To them, backing down from a challenge is worse than death. He finally drew his sidearm, chucking the charge with practiced efficiency. Your Highness, please stay in your quarters. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except human personnel. You can't face war chiefs alone. You're just a... She stopped herself, the word rookie dying on her lips. Ethan smiled then, but it wasn't the gentle expression from before. This smile had edges. Rookie is a relative term, Your Highness. In the human military, I'm considered one of the gentler ones. The real veterans, the ones who fought through the entire Fringe Wars, they stayed Earthside. The brass decided they were too unstable for diplomatic missions. He stepped into the corridor and Zara watched his entire demeanor change. The kindness vanished, replaced by something predatory, something that moved with absolute certainty. She'd seen warriors from a dozen species, had commanded respect from battle-hardened generals, but she'd never seen anything quite like this transformation. The Kravax war chiefs burst through the primary corridor, 4 of them, larger than the scouts, their scales bearing scars from countless battles. They saw Ethan and charged, claws extended, their war cries echoing off the metal walls. Ethan moved. Zara had studied human physiology. She knew they weren't the fastest species, that their reaction times were average at best, but what she witnessed defied those statistics. Ethan didn't fight like he was trying to survive. He fought like he was hunting. Every movement precise, every shot placed with surgical accuracy. He targeted joints, eyes, the soft tissue beneath scales. He used the corridor to his advantage, forcing the larger Kravax into single-file approaches where their numbers meant nothing. And he never stopped moving forward. One of the war chiefs managed to rake claws across Ethan's shoulder, tearing through his uniform and drawing blood. He didn't even flinch. He pressed into the attack, drove his sidearm under the creature's jaw, and fired. The Kravax fell, and Ethan was already pivoting to the next target. The remaining war chiefs began to back away, their aggressive colors fading. They'd come for revenge, for honor, but something in Ethan's eyes told them this fight would cost more than they'd calculated. The lead war chief made a sound, the same low, resonant tone the scout had used, and they retreated, dragging their fallen with them. Ethan stood in the corridor, breathing steady despite the wound on his shoulder, his weapon still raised until the last Kravax disappeared from sight. Then, slowly, his posture relaxed, and the gentle expression returned to his face. He turned back to Zara's quarters, where she stood in the doorway, unable to process what she'd just witnessed. You should get that wound treated, she managed to say. It's shallow. I've had worse. He holstered his weapon and offered her that same easy smile from before. The summit should proceed without further interruption. The Kravax will spread word through their fleets. They won't attack this ship again, because they fear you. Because they remember what happens when they hunt humans. It's not about individual strength, Your Highness. It's about the certainty that if they kill one of us, 100 more will come. And those 100 won't stop, won't negotiate, won't accept surrender until the debt is paid in full. That's what makes us dangerous. Not our weapons or our ships, but our absolute refusal to let predators win. Zara looked at this man, this rookie guard who just fought off Kravax war chiefs with the casual efficiency of someone performing a routine task. Your superiors sent you because you're one of the gentle ones? Yes, ma'am. What are the others like? Ethan's smile faded slightly. The others are the reason the Kravax haven't raided human space in 5 years. They're the reason most apex predator species give our colonies a wide berth. And they're the reason the Galactic Council was very careful about the terms of Earth's admission. The implications settled over Zara like a cold blanket. Humanity had been welcomed into the Council with unusual concessions, treaties that other species had fought wars to achieve. She'd always assumed it was because Earth was eager to prove themselves, willing to accept less favorable terms. Now she understood the truth. The Council hadn't been generous. They'd been terrified of what would happen if they said no. We underestimated your species, Zara said quietly. Most do, at first. We look soft compared to the warrior races. We talk about peace and cooperation. We send diplomats instead of warships. Ethan gestured to himself. We assign rookies to guard princesses. But that's the thing about Earth, Your Highness. We learned a long time ago that the most dangerous predator is the one that doesn't look dangerous until it's too late. Zara thought about the ease with which the Kravax had been repelled. The fear in their eyes. She thought about the scars on Ethan's arms, the calculated precision of his movements, the terrifying efficiency. And she thought about the veterans, the ones considered too dangerous for missions like this, the ones who'd fought through the entire Fringe Wars and lived to tell the tale. How many of those veterans does Earth have? She asked. Enough, Ethan replied, echoing his earlier response. More than enough. The ship's all-clear signal sounded, and normal lighting returned to the corridors. Medical teams rushed past to treat the wounded, and damage control crews began sealing the hull breaches. Everything returned to the routine efficiency of a well-trained crew, as if Kravax attacks were just another item on the daily checklist. Zara returned to her quarters, but she knew sleep wouldn't come easily. She'd boarded this ship thinking she understood the balance of power in the galaxy, secure in the knowledge that the Veil Empire stood among the strongest civilizations. Now she realized that strength was a matter of perspective. The Kravax were apex predators. The Veil Empire commanded respect through military might and ancient lineage. But humanity, this young species that smiled easily and talked about peace, they were something different entirely. They were the predators that hunted other predators. They were the species that taught the unteachable, that made the fearless afraid. And the most terrifying part was that they'd been holding back, sending their gentlest warriors as ambassadors while keeping their true strength hidden. Princess Zara understood now why the Kravax backed away, why the galaxy's most dangerous species avoided human space. It wasn't fear of human weapons or ships. It was the knowledge that humanity had mastered something more primal, more fundamental than any technology. They'd mastered the art of being the thing that goes bump in the night, even for creatures that considered themselves nightmares, and they'd done it with a smile.